Don't let weather or budget keep you from training. On this episode of Tactical Tidbits, I'll show you some options on how to stay on top of your skills when you can't get to the range or when ammo is in short supply. Hello friends, I'm Herman Morris with Alpha One Tactical. As I'm filming this, Alpha One is on hiatus for the summer. We had our last classes last week and we'll be closed down for July and August due to the heat here in the Arizona desert. And in addition, we're currently experiencing a significant ammo crunch across the entire nation, making it very difficult to get some types of ammunition, or if available, it can be outright cost prohibitive. Now, since these circumstances can happen at any time and in any area, I thought I'd take the opportunity to share with you just a few alternatives to your usual firearms training. Okay, so before I get started though, I'll point out that here I'm mostly talking about your own practice, not formal training. If you don't know the difference, then I would point you to my video explaining the different types of training. Now, if you are a trainer yourself, then you could implement some of these options in a class or create an entirely different class altogether. So I'll begin with some live fire alternatives and work my way down to some dry fire alternatives. All right, so for starters, I'll quickly discuss the most obvious option when weather precludes us from training outside, an indoor range, right? Now, indoor ranges are a great option, but they do have their limitations. Depending on the range, they can be very comfortable and clean, or they can be crowded, noisy, uncomfortable facilities. In addition, they often have a lot of rules about what kind of shooting you can do there. In many cases, they don't allow shooting from the holster or rapid fire, certainly no movement, or many other important firearms manipulations. However, if you simply want to get in some trigger time, even a mediocre indoor range will do. All right? But if ammo is more of a concern, then you have a few options. So, I'll start with a more cost-effective live fire option. Basically just versions of your go-to firearms in cheaper, more plentiful calibers. Now, here I have my everyday carry, a Glock 19 that fires a 9mm cartridge, which is in short supply right now. And here you have a Glock 44 that fires a .22 long rifle cartridge, but has all the same dimensions of the Glock 19, so it fits the same holsters and I can attach, the same accessories to it. Now for defensive shooting at close distances, this is a perfectly acceptable platform to use to practice my presentation and my first round on target and a few other types of drills. Now obviously, if even .22 long rifle becomes scarce, as it was a few years back when we went through another ammo crunch, then this might not be an option, so here's another one. If you're a trainer or a training facility, Ultimate Training Munitions have conversion kits for almost any firearm out there that will allow it to fire plastic target rounds or marking rounds that can also be used for force-on-force training. Now, these alternatives are not cheaper, but they're at least an option that is not as affected during ammo crunches, so you can at least get your hands on these types of munitions for whatever it's worth. All right. A similar and even cheaper version of this would be airsoft. Now, I don't own any airsoft guns, but I have owned them in the past, and I think that if used appropriately, they can serve as a very good training tool, given that they're almost exact replicas with a lot of the same moving parts and controls. In the case of the gas blowback airsoft pistols that work on compressed gas, they even have reciprocating slides that create a decent amount of recoil, so they simulate the real steel pistols pretty closely. A recent real steel version of just that is a system that I've been seeing around more and more, and it's called Cool Fire Trainer. It's essentially the same concept as what an airsoft gas blowback pistol does, but except it's a conversion kit for your existing pistol, and it also accepts a laser so that you can practice marksmanship, not just manipulations. All right, So, but at almost double the price of a decent airsoft replica, and not owning one myself, I'm not entirely sure if this system is worth it, but at least you know it's out there. Moving on to dry fire options. Now, the most obvious being using your existing firearms. It's imperative that when you are using a real firearm for any type of practice that you are extremely careful about clearing them and having no live ammunition anywhere in the area. And as per usual, we follow the 5 firearm safety rules even during dry practice. Now, if done right, this kind of practice can go a long way in improving or at least maintaining your skills. Now, another cheap and even safer alternative to dry fire is using inert training versions of your firearms. These are plastic or rubber training replicas that have no moving parts and are usually used to practice disarming techniques, but they can also be excellent tools to drill your presentation anywhere and anytime, given that they don't fire any type of projectile. Now, in the case of a SIRT pistol, you have a working trigger, magazine release, and inert magazines, so that you can not only drill your presentation, but your trigger press, trigger reset, and even some aspects of the speed reload. As you can see here, the SIRT pistol actuates a laser during the take-up of the trigger, and another one where the shot would break, so that you can see if you're slapping the trigger or if you're prepping it, and resetting it correctly. All right. So these are just a few, of your options, but I hope that you can see that there's no excuse to let your skills deteriorate. Find out what works best for you, what fits your budget, and stay on top of your training and practice. Now stay tuned for some videos in which I'll show you, how I drill some fundamental manipulations without using any live ammo, here in my home. I'll see you then.